Hey guys, Tommy Kerrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tommy Untamed. We're going to take a quick break and give a shout out to the sponsors who support the show and make it possible. The world's smartest investors are not buying oil stocks, they're buying mailbox money or oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as $25. Visit KerriganOilBoom.com to discover how to tap into monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be wealthy or connected, you just need a regular brokerage account. That's KerriganOilBoom.com to learn how you could start collecting oil royalty checks every month. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So, if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels, go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tommy Untamed. We have a great show with me. And guys, the new sponsor of the show is Axios Fitness. Really, all you have to do right now, and all really they're asking of me, is that you go into the description and you take their survey. It's just a quick survey on what you want out of fitness, why you should get into it, and primarily, and it's one of the reasons I like them, is it's a take on fitness that you're not getting everywhere else, and it's realistic. It's hey, a lot of the world hates you if you're just I don't know, heterosexual white dude in the United States. It's just what it is. It's and you should probably train, which I like a lot. And you can get biceps and all that good stuff. Well, here not using the right camera, but it's very dark. It's very cloudy right now, cloudy and foggy, and so I'm using you'd think the good camera would be able to adapt to low light, but apparently it doesn't. So but it is Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 2:32 p.m. Eastern Time. Today's show rescheduled to tomorrow. So one thing I do is I just kind of keep a running idea of solar rants. And for people that don't know what a solar rant is, it's putting a title on something that really doesn't even deserve a title. It's just me talking because the guest, I don't have a guest. That's where it originated from. Was like the early first couple months of the show. I would just need it. So I just sometimes I go in with an idea or a loose idea. I never know what I'm doing. I never know what I'm doing with a normal guest. When I'm by myself, I know even less of what I'm doing, and it can go in any which direction. So I normally name them after I do them because I don't know what they are. Um, so if you're looking for a traditional episode, this isn't it. Don't waste your time. I don't want you to waste your time. Um, how is this already? God, why? Why? Always. Yeah, it is so foggy, but it's still cold enough that I don't need the air conditioner. So I've been having the windows open. It's so humid that everything in this apartment actually started to get like a little sticky. And it's not even that it's too hot. It's just at a certain point I'm like, man, there's blankets and clothes and sound panels and all stuff that shouldn't be getting like moist and moldy. So air conditioner's on for the first time this year. And my mom got me a thermometer so I can actually see the humidity point. Thank you, Mom. I love you. What am I talking about? Solar Ant. Yeah, so they're stupid. I swear far more than normal, and it's just because I'm trying to think. Um, I never swear really intentionally. It's just how I talk. The only reason I don't tamp it down is because that takes conscious thought, and that thus takes away from the free flow of ideas. Um, but yeah, so the one I kind of want to touch on today. So I write down ideas when I get them. Um, but wait, what? Wait, yeah, so I didn't even write this one down. I'm an idiot. And I'm not even sure if I'm gonna make a whole thing. It's probably even be like a 10-minute show. I have no idea. But it's something that I kind of want to explore myself, and that's what these episodes help do is like the value of having a good video game. And I've been thinking about it for a little while, and the more I mull it over, the more I realize it doesn't even have to be a video game. For me, it's a video game. Um, I've always played video games. I mean, in college, my favorite like time off wouldn't be going out. It would be getting like a bottle of rum and just playing a game by myself. I just love it. I love open world video games. I love kind of linear progression games like an Ace Combat or something. And just I love Helldiver or the kind of the multiplayer fun chaotic Helldivers, Insurgency, Ready or Not, Ground Branch, World of Warships. I just love, I really do just love video games. And sometimes I find myself trying to rationalize why I like them and the benefits of them. And there are genuine legitimate benefits. But I also have to come back and go, yeah, and I just like them. Like, I don't have to like, you can ask someone, why do you love your grandma? Or why did you fall in love with this person and marry them for 50 years? You can explain everything, but you can also just say, because I love them. And it's just none of your business. So that's one thing I have to kind of catch myself. If I find myself, people, video games are a waste of time, and I start defending it on points, I'm like, yeah, I also just like them. The end. Like, the end. How about that? So, not to get like wildly defensive, but I enjoy them. They're kind of complex puzzles, and I really, specifically with the podcast, I've played them my whole life. Specifically with the podcast. Early on in the show, I used to listen to audiobooks while I'd play them. Just so that was more so when I was living at home because I felt like such a loser for being at home. I was like, I really couldn't justify playing video games. And so I'd at least listen to audiobooks. And I did that for years before I even started the podcast, like 2016, 17, 18, 19. And then that actually kind of folded over into the podcast in that I would get a lot of those authors on because I already read the books. And I'd also fall back on truly like the hundreds of books I had read and filled up the podcast with them in terms of discussions or episodes like this where I just had a wealth of knowledge. And I'll try to get something out of it. Um, and a huge reason why I got into audiobooks in like 2016, 17, but now I like regiment them and read more than I want. It used to be like if I liked a book, I'd read it. Now I like, go out of my way to, even if I don't want to, I just throw it on. It's in my daily to do list up there with like making my bed, praying, meditating, going to the gym is 1 hour of an audiobook. Um, and it's because of when I read Call Sign Chaos by Bing West about General Mattis. It was two quotes from Mattis. People like him, dislike him, whatever. The quotes are great. And it's number one, if you haven't read hundreds of nonfiction books, you are historically illiterate or functionally illiterate. You just have to have on anything, from engineering to the history of oil paintings to the Punic Wars. And then another thing you said, which I really like, is intuition is subconscious pattern recognition, nothing more, nothing less. And I really like that. And I think the two actually go into one another. It's like an AI trained on, 1,000 interactions or 100,000 or 100 million. It gets better at recognizing these things. So your gut feeling, aside from, divine presence and discernment, which Christ does do, is also just your ability to see things. And even if you can't, they would always tell us, like OChem or physics or studying for the MCAT, they'd be like, if you really don't know something, try to remember what your first gut instinct was when you saw the question. Something in your mind is giving you a gut instinct. It's not incorrect. And so I just look at that in terms of like I live in this world, this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional space, humans on this planet, whatever this whole thing is. It's probably good to be as literate as I can about everything from up-to-date news sources to the rise and fall of empires. So that's why I would read while playing the video games. But also, oh man, I'm gonna spill this, aren't I? Oh, no, I didn't. There's a lip on that cup. Hell yeah. Little wins, man. Little wins. Was I get that from games as well. There's fun games where you're just being an idiot with, and then there's a whole value in that. But there is something about grinding on a skill tree, unlocking perks. And then there's like the wisdom that it's not a skill. It's not something that you can unlock, like a better armor or a better scope. It's just getting to know the game. And one thing I learned a lot in college studying all the time was there was like different ways to prep for a test. There was the classes where it was almost like 1-to-1. It was like if you memorized the terms, you could pass the test. And as you were memorizing the terms, as you memorized a greater percentage of them, you knew that you were at least going to get a greater percentage grade. And it was just like put in the time, you get the grade. But then there were things where there was like a psychological component, like organic chemistry, where when I took organic chemistry too, I took it over the summer. So as opposed to during a semester where you have the class like twice a week, but you're also taking 4 other classes, it was just organic chemistry. It was just like a 3-hour lecture every day. And instead of a test every 2 months, it was every 2 weeks. And that was just all you did. And so it was condensed down to almost like watching the time lapse of something that gives you a better idea of how it goes. Tides coming in and out or a flower blooming. Sometimes accelerating the time allows you to see it more clearly. Because of that, it was all condensed into 2 weeks. And as I'd be studying it, I'd be 5 days and 6 days and 7 days and okay, and then 8, 9, 10, and then you're taking these practice tests and you're still not doing well. And you'd be like, shit. And then it was always around like day 11 and 12 that you turn the corner and you start getting like in the 80s on a practice test. And then it was always around like 12 to 13 that you'd start hitting like high 90s. And the first time it happened, I was like, oh, thank God. But then after like the fifth test, you start to realize that you start to recognize it as a repeatable, reproducible phenomena that you just put more energy into it. At the very end, it would start to click, and kind of like boiling water, right? There you have to keep putting the phase change, right? There's when it boil or when it goes from a solid to a liquid or a liquid to a gas. There's the what is like the activation energy or something where you're dumping heat in and it's not noticeably changing. It's because there is something changing. It's just not visible to us. It's an activation energy where you gotta just keep dumping it on and then it changes. And I found that in video games as well. Something like a Ghost Recon Wildlands or uh, Ace Combat or Hitman or just these things where it wasn't something you could unlock like a new gun. And it wasn't even really, it was a strategy in that you could go online and you could find these like things of like wisdom almost to where someone else would do the equivalent of the organic chemistry instead of 2 weeks. Maybe they've been playing the game for 2 years, to where at the very last couple, fraction of time in that chunk of time, did they become this much better, get the equivalent of a 95 on an OChem test for this game. They just the last little bit of strat, just the little tiny things, which really sets them apart into like the upper, you know, percentile of players. And they can't really do that with OChem because you have to know it. But with video games, you could do that. You could go find a walkthrough or something, or like a board or a Reddit, and you'd be like, oh, and you could learn kind of like the quote, was it Plato or Aristotle, whoever the fuck, about read many books so that you may come across easily what other men learned through great hardship. Basically, it's like take the wisdom of the old guy who's telling you everything because he's already tried it for 80 years. And you could do that with video games, so to where even if you didn't understand why it was so, if somebody with 1,000 hours in the game tells you like, whatever, never zigzag, always go like right back right or whatever, never always throw, a frag grenade through the first window, but what just some weird thing where it gives you an edge. You can know that and incorporate, you can incorporate it and get the benefit, but you don't understand it, and maybe you will understand it after 1,000 hours in, but you're kind of getting this undeserved wisdom. But it doesn't matter, right? Because it's a video game. Well, to me, it does matter because only through doing that subjective grinding learning process do you learn the ability to learn. There's memorization and then there's actual learning. But there's another level. There's learning to learn. And that's where I think video games come. And I know video games have a giant benefit in that. So what's the point of it? Why would I put in, I'm 50 hours into Ghost Recon. Why would I put in another 950 hours just to learn this thing that I can look up on a walkthrough? Well, if you're just doing no, sure, go for it, look it up. But like for me, specifically doing the podcast, I was like, well, why would I want to go and learn how to learn? Why would I want to know how to find things out as opposed to just finding things out? And I was like, well, the podcast, there is no set path. Even something as difficult as medical school, there's still a set path. You got to take these courses over this many semesters, do these extracurriculars, letters of recommendation, shadowing, volunteering, and do all this stuff. But there's still a path. There is, somebody's knocking around. I couldn't do it because I'm short, but there is a path to get to the NBA. It's vanishingly small, but there is a path. Start practicing all day, every day. Middle school, high school, AAU, church leagues, go to the camps, college, blah, blah, blah. And there is a path. Almost impossible for you to pull it off, but there is a path. You could do it. there is a path for me to become the governor of Maine. Very unlikely. Well, actually, I'd say there isn't a path because it's not a set thing. Unlike taking these classes to get into the school or, trying to become special forces or something. With the podcast, there is no set path. No one knows. And so you have to be able to do this real time thing of going, yeah, how does this work? And it's like, well, you have to learn how to learn. You have to be able to look at things and recognize patterns. You have to go, well, I know if I grind it this longer, I might hit that point where I start to unlock it in the last, 1% of time. Other times you look at it more as like a skill tree. You're like, I know if I unlock this, or it's like, money. It's like, I know if I grind at this liquor store job while I'm doing the podcast and make enough money, I eventually can afford the good microphone. And that's a skill tree thing. That's unlocking the good scope or the silencer or the extended mag. There are other things where it's like a strat, like a meta strat. You're like, in general, you should do this, and there are deviations, but in general, you have your you have your loadout. Where like even if I don't know what the map is, Helldivers, I like this loadout. I bring the 500 kilogram. I bring the airstrike. I bring the quasar, and I bring like an anti-tank emplacement in case we run into unexpected heavies. And it's in general a strat, and then you can modify it depending on the planet. This is a jungle planet. This one's bugs, not robots. Okay, you want to go more flame based, or this one's like a heavy defense. Okay, get rid of all the stealth stuff. Just go EOD soup. But in general, you have a loadout that you throw at, let's say, 95% of matches. Well, that's kind of like the podcast, and like in general, you're gonna want to go with the classics. You're gonna want to go 8 hours of sleep, wake up, hydration, caffeine, make your bed, hit the gym, wake up, shower, shave, clean clothes, meditate, pray, show up, have a cup of water, have the lights on, and be ready to go. Now you're gonna find some shows that deviate where it's like they shot Trump and it's like I gotta contact Dale. Dale's in Bali. I'm here. It's 8 p.m. It's not a normal show. The lighting's all fucked up. I'm tired. I'm in pajamas. Like, but it's you gotta go. But in general, you have like your loadout. Even saving money or saving, just I don't know what this brings and I don't want it. I don't want the game to end at this date. So save money for, unexpected whatever. And that's where video games truly have helped me in so many ways. I mean, really, to where, and then you go, well, what happens when like you like eventually you should theoretically like hit all of the lessons that video games can learn, right? There's only so many lessons. Not that you can play all the video games, of course not. But there's only so many cliches you can learn, right? Where you can learn them through a zillion different anecdotes and stories. But in general, right, early bird gets the worm, penny saved is a penny earned, or early to bed, early to rise makes man healthy, wealthy, and wise. What goes around comes around. Do unto others if you'd like to have do unto you. The path the road to hell is paved with good intentions. No good deed goes unpunished. You are living in the good old days. You will yearn for this one day, or you don't. Be careful what you wish for. There's only so many lessons, right? And you can fill them in a million different ways. Goes around comes around. I mean, 100 billion interactions of humans every day. And but for me, it's almost good to, even if there isn't like a new meta idea you're learning, even just by constantly playing and constantly challenging yourself, you're keeping that muscle fresh. Like you're just training every day. You never know when the quarterback's going to break his leg and you get to go in, like Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. But every day you're just training, right? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. It's you're turning the safe combination, and you never know when you're going to hit it, but you have to be applying pressure, or it won't matter when you hit it. It's good to have your business card on. You never know who you're going to sit next to on a plane. It's not guaranteed, but that's what luck is. There is no actual such thing as luck. It's you're trying to open every door you see, and then one day you find a car that's unlocked and you can rob it. I don't know. I don't live in San Francisco, but whatever. But I should do fentanyl and shit myself on camera. But by kind of keeping that muscle fresh, it allows you to, and you know what, it might not even be limited to the podcast where I'm like, there is no set path. When I said that, my mind was like, if I had a set path, if I was just working as a doctor or 9 to 5 or whatever, you wouldn't need it. But maybe you do. Maybe by doing that, it allows you to break out of that system. I don't know. Um, there are other benefits, the social life, the laughing, the blah blah blah. But for me, it keeps me thinking and like scheming. And I've found that, so like those are all the applicable benefits from it. There are some more abstract ones that I don't think are limited to video games. Oh, and so one thing I was thinking about was like, so when people look at video games like just like the boomer take of like you're wasting your time, and I'm like, no, these have legitimately shaped like how I operate the podcast successfully. Thank you very much. And then I'll find myself looking at something like sports ball, and I just see like, and I'm like, this is retarded. I have no idea what lessons you learn from that though. Maybe you've watched 1,000 football games and that helps you with the podcast. That helps you with an analogy of like, I know that, if if I do this play, and if I call an audible at the last second, I know that they have a weak defense and I can go up. It's like, and then in which case I look at something like sports and I'm like, that's a waste of time. And it's like, yeah, actually, that really helped me learn this. Or, as I said in the opening of the show, it might just be fuck you. I like football. I don't, you're not owed an explanation. Which got me into thinking like maybe that's what hobbies are. Is it's this place to go in and learn without it feeling like learning. It's a way to go in and learn these lessons that you otherwise wouldn't want to learn. You wouldn't want to learn calculus or physics or whatever or chemistry. But if you're using chemistry to, cook math and make money, you might be a little more inclined to like read about covalent bonds or something. So that got me thinking that maybe that's what hobbies are. And I have no idea if this is true because I don't really trust him. But I remember like hearing or seeing something from Tony Robbins years ago where it was talking about, the neuroplasticity of the mind, learning new hobbies, learning, be it memorization or addiction or whatever. The physical growing of the neurons, the actual physical movement of proteins and fats and things binding and collagen and neurotransmitters, and how if there was like a dopamine rush or pleasure or enjoyment associated with it, it would grow at like 500 times the speed. Now, I mean, I have no idea. I think that is kind of a charlatan. He's also made like $100 zillion. What the fuck do I know? But there might be something to that, to where you're more likely to learn in that environment of fun, be it you're watching football or playing a video game, than maybe you would if you had to like sit down with a notebook at a desk and learn a lesson. So those are like the applicable and I guess I don't know functionally beneficial aspects of video games. But I've also found that I've been sober for like 14 months. Just, I mean, I always feel weird saying that, not because I care about the stigma of it. I don't give a shit. You mean nothing to me, to everyone watching, but more of like, I feel like it's almost kind of, I was drinking like once a week. I don't want to like build myself up. It's like, oh, I'm sober. Like, yeah, no, I was just a faggot. But because of that, I don't have that release once a week where it kind of didn't matter how bad the week was or how good it was. I was like, I'm just getting fucked up on Friday. Now I don't have that, and so it's forced me to like look into other forms of like enjoyment and fun, and it's primarily been almost entirely, virtually all, been video games. And it's actually really, really helped me kind of stay sober. Like so many times on a Friday night now, I'll, instead of going to bed at like 11, I'll play until I'm finished playing and I don't want to play anymore. And sometimes it might be 4 a.m. and I'll find myself finishing and I'll be like, oh, I didn't really need alcohol. So much of that enjoyment, well, sure, it's always more fun with alcohol. I'll be like, I just got like 90% of the enjoyment though, just because it was, I knew I got to sleep in tomorrow and I didn't have to go to bed early. And I'm just happy it's Friday. Like, oh, that's all I really wanted. I didn't fucking need the alcohol. So that's not nothing to, sobriety. But I found when I have something to think about and something to look forward to play, it pulls me through my day to day. And I know that because if I beat a game where I feel like I've mastered it to the extent that I can, and I don't have like another game ready, I have a noticeable, measurable malaise. Like the podcast feels flatter, my workouts are worse, my meditations are worse. I'll finish up the show and then I'll just kind of like poke around my apartment for like 5 hours. Just like moving around from the couch to my bed to a chair, just like scrolling. And it's not like I do something productive, like, well, you could learn. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. Versus when there is a game that I am looking forward to. And again, it doesn't have to be a game, it could be a church basketball league. It pulls me forward almost like, I don't know, almost like a water skier. The boat's sitting there idling, when the guy has sitting there in his life jacket and his skis are poking out of the water, and he's sitting there and he grabs the thing. He's like, "All right, go!" And they start to go, and the rope is, and then it starts to tighten, and it lifts you out of the water, and then you start going, and then they speed up. It does that to me throughout the day with everything. Just like a faster shower, reading more, answering the emails faster, finishing the podcast and uploading it, just doing everything, laundry, dishes, as fast as I can, because there's a thing I want to get to. And it really, the only way I can describe it is it's this pulling force where you yanks you out of the water and you see the wake split and the water starts kind of flying up, and when you go forward, that's what it does to me. Is it pulls me forward. And when I don't have that, I can still go forward, but it's very inefficient and subjectively not that enjoyable. Versus when I have a game, and it doesn't even have to be like the true kind of honeymoon feeling of a video game where you just, oh, I fucking want to play this. It could be something like right now, like Helldivers. I'm playing Helldivers again. I played it for like 1,000 hours last year, and then I put it down for 9 months. I'm playing it again, and it's still just so fun. Even that like 50% feeling, still, I get up and I go about my day like as fast as possible, and I do it with like energy. Because I want to do this thing. Now in Helldivers, there's back to all the practical things, right? I'm learning, blah, blah, blah. But there is in general just this thing that pulls me forward about it. Now, once I'm in it, it's back to the first whatever half of the, where I have no idea how long the show's gonna be, so I have no idea. It was half or whatever of the show about all the lessons and everything. And I love having that. It makes me think. I'm just all day, every day. I'm thinking of like how to go about like nuclear option. I'm thinking of like strategies. I'm like, you know, and like multi-ordered strategies, or it's not just linear. It's this, and if this, do that, and if that, do this, and putting together hypotheses and trying it out and escalating, and multi-variables and different attack patterns as time progression and scores and unlocks, and all just this multifaceted dimensional thing. and making hypotheses and theses and trying them out, and then they don't work or they kind of work, and then you finally get something where it sort of starts to work and you feel like you get a grip. Like you feel like you grab something and your hands are kind of locking in. It's gloves that sort of fit. You're like, I've got it. I've got something. And then as you do that, you get better at, once you have that thing, then you try another one, and maybe that doesn't work at all. And it's like, oh, cold, cold, cold. And so you try another thing, and it's like, oh, you're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. And you start to get this grasp on this thing you're doing, simulation game versus other people, or versus bots, or versus yourself, or versus scores, or, and as you get sort of closer to it, you come up with more hypotheses and things, and then it turns into like you're gripping as you're clawing closer to this thing, and that goes on for a period, and then you start to get so good at it that then there's this phase of almost bliss to where you start to master it. And that was like the OChem, when I'd start to just go through practice tests and know everything, literally get perfect scores. And there's an enjoyment in that that's hard to describe, to when you just fucking know everything. You can run into a map and it's you versus 10 people, and you're like, I'm going to fucking smoke these retards. And you do it like relaxed. And you can even like call out, you're like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to pull these guys in here. And then when they think they have this, then we shoot them all in the head. And you do it, and it's brrr, and it's the satisfaction of just throwing up a 3-pointer and swishing it. And it's just, and what's the value of that? I don't know, man. That's just part of the joy of being a human. And then you can take that and go, now how do I apply that to the podcast? You go, oh, OChem in the summer was every 2 weeks. A video game, that kind of feels a little more like every 2 months. Much like the time lapse thing, you go, okay, so where's the podcast? Oh, it's happening much slower. What takes 2 months on a video game took 4 years or 3 years. And you go, oh, and now you start to put another hypothesis forward. And the thing is you don't feel so helpless or lacking control. You go, I know I just did I did a hypothesis and it kind of worked. Now I'm doing another one. And if it doesn't work, don't despair. It means that was just metal detector. No, you're going away. Go the other direction. So if this doesn't work, don't despair. Don't throw your hands up and go, it's over. Go try another hypothesis. You move over to this, and then you lock in and you go, oh, I can feel it. And then you start moving forward. And the more complex and challenging the game is, the more satisfying the successes. And so that's a lot how I look at the podcast. Is just the biggest game. It's 5 years, 1,700 episodes in. But it's like, what's the benefit? Well, you get to be your own boss. It's real. It doesn't turn off when the video game turns off. It doesn't go away once the screen goes dark. You go, oh, this is my life. Oh, the revenue changes, my diet, how well I can eat. Can I afford sushi? Or changes, can I afford to, whatever the fuck, have friends or family stay with me? And it actually starts to unlock like the biggest video game, and it's that of the human experience on this planet. And I can only imagine that, once this quote unquote game is over, maybe the podcast goes 10 years, there's a bigger one, and it's your life. And you go, okay, well, I know at the podcast I did that. So what's on the even bigger thing? And it's like 80 years on this planet. And I guess that's how I look at it. And it's really just a joy. There's just a joy for me, just figuring it out. And yeah, I just genuinely love it. So I don't know if any of that made sense. I frankly don't care, because I'm going to go play Helldivers. So, guys, thank you for watching.